Hi, I'm Caden, here with my brother,
Cal,
and you're listening to Eating W's.
eat the W.
That's a W. Let's eat one. Let's eat one. That's a W.
So, on today's episode of Eating W's, we have our NFL Week 9 recap. So, let's just get right into it. First up, we have the Raiders against the Giants, and man, did the Giants show up to play. Now, Callum mentioned it sometime last week, I can't remember which episode it was, but that I told him that I thought the Giants' defense was pretty good. And I'm not going to lie, they're even better than I thought they were. They've really been balling out. And every time somebody makes a play on that defense, I hear another name that I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot they even had that person. And they just keep getting better.
Yeah, I think it was during the or before the Chiefs-Giants game.
Yeah.
Because I was saying how the Chiefs were bad teams against good defenses, and the people look at the Giants as a pushover, but with that defense, I was saying how they could possibly upset the Chiefs. But yeah, they really showed up and got that win against the Raiders, who were, coming to New York from the West Coast. So finally,
You get to say it.
a West Coast team went to the East Coast for a 1 o'clock game and looked like they were jet lagged. Like the body clock was thinking it was 9 a.m. That's what you could get.
He's so excited. Only reason he watched this game is just because he's been waiting for this to happen.
For that to work.
No, but I didn't get to catch a ton of this game, sadly. I can't remember I think 16-23, so it was a reasonably close game still. But yeah, if the Giants could just get any sort of offense going. Saquon was out again. Daniel Jones
they still scored 23.
Yeah, Daniel Jones continued to look like Daniel Jones.
Yeah, so inconsistent.
If with that defense that they have developing there, if they could get a decent offense going, they might be real contenders in the NFC East, which isn't saying much if you look at the NFC East, but especially with another team that we'll be talking about in a little bit here that looked like they were the real NFC East contenders, but maybe not after this game.
And one thing about the Raiders is that, again, they're coming off of another chaotic tragedy. Not even just the Henry Ruggs thing, but Damon Arnett was also arrested and released due to, what was it?
Can't remember exactly. Yeah,
threatening
someone with a weapon.
With a loaded gun. Video of him threatening someone, which is just, again, like, why are some of these players just so stupid about things? Like, is it the ego? Do you feel like you get that good, that much money that you just feel untouchable? I mean, that's the only thing I can think is that you're just young and feel untouchable.
I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, the Raiders 110% need to figure it out because it is getting bad. Next up, we had the Falcons at the Saints, and Callan got this as his upset last week and got it. He hit his upset, and it was a great game to watch. I'm not going to lie. I mean, Simeon played pretty well. The whole Falcons offense played pretty well.
Cordell Patterson is having a resurgence.
Cordell Patterson, Kyle Pitts started to make some plays again.
It's funny. I picked the Falcons because I had heard the Saints were going with the quarterback platoon. So I was like, I went with the Falcons kind of going against that because I thought, that's not going to really work. They didn't do that. But I ended up still being right. Just my reasoning was wrong.
Did Taysom Hill not play, or did he just not get
He didn't get it. He only did his normal Wildcat stuff. He didn't play quarterback consistently. He might have had some plays, but I never knew of him coming in and like playing a series or a quarter or anything like that.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. That's what I was thinking of the platoon.
I was really busy this Sunday, so I didn't get to watch pretty much any of the noon games other than just catching some of them on Red Zone. So I'm still kind of a little behind, too. I just know some of the basics of each game. But, yeah, I know Kamara had a touchdown. Kamara played pretty well. Not as well as he needs to step up for that offense, in my opinion, just looking at his stats.
Yeah, Simeon's he's a game manager. And, those are great for when you're ahead. But when you got to take the lead or you're in a dogfight, you need him to step up and be a little more than that.
And Matty Ice earned his nickname, got them down in field goal range. Young Ho Koo continued to clutch up and get the game-winning field goal. And it's just a good overall game by the Falcons.
His third game-winning field goal of the year so far.
I know. The Falcons are just on all these close games.
And if you ever need an onside kick, He's your guy.
He can do it too.
What did he get? 3 or 4 onside kicks last year, and the rest of the league had it was like 6 total, and he had like 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah, it was crazy,
including like 2 in a row where there was a penalty.
2 against the 3 technically against the
right, because the penalty.
It wasn't the Cowboys. I can't remember
what game it was, but
yeah, he hit one. And then he hit another one, but it got penalty.
And then he
hit
it
the other
yeah.
one officially. So yeah, it was crazy.
Dude's trick shot kicker.
For real, he literally is.
Yeah.
Next up, we have the Bills in Jacksonville taking on the Jags, and Cal and I both had the Bills in this one. I had them as my lock, but the Jags ended up pulling out a win in probably the biggest upset of the year.
This is by far the biggest upset of the year. Just
the Jags defense held the Bills to 6 points, 2 field goals,
not even
no
a touchdown.
That is insane. Here we go. Get ready to be completely confused by this analysis because Josh Allen beat the living hell out of Josh Allen.
Yep.
The Jacksonville Jaguars defensive end linebacker hybrid Josh Allen had 2 sacks, one being a strip sack, a fumble recovery, and an interception in that game. He just absolutely destroyed. And the Bills quarterback, Josh Allen, didn't play well overall. You could tell that he was really trying. There was a lot of the times that he probably should have been sacked, but was able to kind of extend the play. But, man, the Jags offense did not look good. Don't get confused. Don't think the Jags absolutely dominated this game, because they did not.
Defensively,
the Jags defense single-handedly won this game and was the only unit that truly looked like they came to play that day.
Well, really just Josh Allen in general. Apparently, he's had some real pent-up anger about the whole Josh Allen thing. And he wanted to prove that he was the better Josh Allen yesterday. And holy shit, if he could play with that motivation every week, I think the Jaguars would be an AFC South contender.
In this specific example, he very much was the better Josh Allen that game. So that was a fun, crazy, crazy game to watch. I could not believe it. Next up, we had the Browns, who had an AFC North divisional matchup against the Bengals. And though Cal and I both picked the Bengals, the Browns won very decisively. Can't remember exact score, but the game was not that close. The Browns looked good the entire time, even without Odell Beckham Jr. And I'm kind of stealing this from somebody else. I can't remember who exactly said it, if it was an analyst during the game or an analyst after the game. But the thing that he noticed, and I noticed as well, was that the Browns really returned to form of what their team is supposed to be with that great offensive line and the great running back. They ran the ball. They were able to set up the play action off of the huge game by Nick Chubb. I think he had like 130-some yards and a touchdown.
It was only on like 19 carries.
14 carries.
14 carries? Yeah.
It was
they didn't have that many, but
they were able to establish the run game, which then led to them establishing the passing game. So Baker had a pretty good game, but he had easy throws. He had one really nice throw to Donovan Peoples-Jones on like a 60 or 50-yard touchdown, so that was cool to see. But yeah, the Browns just, on both sides of the ball in all aspects, pretty well dominated that game.
I mean, it's exactly how a coach wants to do it. You run the ball, you make the defense commit to running the ball, you run the play action, you get open deep. I mean, that's literally how they draw it up, you know. And for the Browns, why are they better without Odell Beckham Jr.? Is he that much of a cancer? I mean, I hate putting that on a player. I really don't know if any player was ever that could be considered a cancer. I know it gets thrown around a lot, but they did look better without him, and that's not the first game this year that they've looked better without him.
I think it's just something about the presence he brings. He brings just such a natural drama. Like, look at me, I need the ball.
I know,
room.
and
it's crazy, but it's true. I mean, like,
I think it's just his attitude, his aurora. Like,
Cal and I were joking around the other day, and we said we can't decide if Eli was the only quarterback that could tame Odell, or if Odell led Eli into an early retirement. But ever since Eli, teams have just seemed to be worse with Odell on their roster. And like Cal just said, it's a weird thing to say because he really is an amazing athlete, a great player. But that's what I've kind of boiled it down to, is there just must be something about his presence that naturally, like,
brings
morale down, brings teamwork
cause,
down.
Stress or
it's so
pressure.
Weird.
I don't know if it's like they feel like they have to have him involved or what.
And I mean, with how much they run the ball, when they've got guys like Austin Hooper and David Njoku at tight end, and then if Donovan Peoples-Jones can continue to develop like he has been, and you still have that good old reliable possession receiver like Jarvis Landry, I just don't see where you need Odell in that offense.
The only thing I can think is that, I mean, you can only have one player with initials. So they had OBJ, and now they got DPJ. And DPJ is looking a lot better.
And they have
recently
JOK on the other side with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. So,
but he's on IR, so they'll have to figure that out when he comes back.
No, but it's hard to explain. I don't know what it is. But next up, we got the Broncos, who went to Dallas and again just absolutely dominated the Cowboys on both sides of the ball. The defense just completely stomped them. The offense was able to move the ball and keep a good time of possession like you need to against a high-powered offense like the Cowboys. Man, that defense, you trade away Von Miller. I think Nick Chubb still might be injured. I don't even know if they had Nick.
Nick Chubb's on the Browns, but Bradley Chubb is still injured. He wasn't playing.
They didn't even have Bradley Chubb, and they were still able to just absolutely
I thought they
stomp
shut out
one of the best
the Cowboys.
offenses in the league.
The Cowboys got 2 garbage time touchdowns.
Dak got 2 very garbage time touchdowns.
I thought they shut him out. It was like 6 minutes through the fourth quarter, and it was 30-0 still. Yeah, they just went to that prevent. But I can't believe the way that Denver came out and played. I mean, I guess, after thinking about it and hearing what some of the players had said in the press conferences, they were really motivated, actually, after Miller got traded, because it was kind of like a wake-up call. Like, damn, all of us are, expendable in a sense. And it just kind of motivated them. They said to be like, all right, let's come together here and play our hearts out. And they did, both defensively and offensively. Javonte Williams went over 100 yards, and Melvin Gordon had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And then they still had Tim Patrick almost went over 100. They still got Sutton and
Jerry Jeudy had his first game back. Didn't get a ton of yards, but he made some big time plays.
Catches. Yeah. Tim Patrick is one that really showed up. But yeah, so you're gonna have 3 young, pretty standout wide receivers, and it's just like, which one do you cover? Because it looks like they put the cover on Sutton and Jeudy, and Tim Patrick beat them. So how?
Dude, Patrick Surtain has been playing well. Don't get me wrong. I'm not hating on the pick. But the fact that Justin Fields was still on the board and they went with Pat Surtain, could you imagine that offense with Justin Fields at this point if he had the whole year to develop and get ready?
Like Teddy.
Justin Fields and Teddy are 2 very different quarterbacks.
They're similar-ish quarterbacks.
Well, they're similar in archetype, I guess, but you gotta look at their age, their speed, the way they play. Teddy's much more of a game manager.
Well, I guess just more in the style of play, know.
And that's partly just because of age, like I mentioned. Mm-hmm. Justin Fields is, of course, going to be a lot less of a game manager at 21 than Teddy is came out of the 14 draft, so however old that makes him. 29, yeah. Yeah, but overall...
And Surtain got hurt. He's out for a while now.
Surtain did get hurt, I saw that. But they still have... Kyle Fuller, who's going to be very good. So they should be able to survive that little hiccup. But overall,
they could still win the West.
Great game by the Broncos. It was crazy to see that. Next up, we have... I'm just going to sigh every time we talk about the Vikings game now, because that's how it makes me feel. The Vikings went to Baltimore and played better than the Ravens.
Yeah.
But in true Vikings fashion, still found a way to lose.
You actually shut down Lamar, and then he was like, oh, I can throw.
Yeah, we ended up losing on a game-winning field goal in overtime.
But you were up 24-7? Is that it? 21?
I can't remember what the exact score was.
I
think my brain has just blocked it out because I don't want to remember.
Yeah, I've been there.
My God. So, Zimmer coached better from the first quarter to the fourth quarter than I've seen him do in a while. He coached really well throughout regulation.
I don't know, cracked at halftime?
What happened in overtime?
Or in overtime, yeah.
That he just completely So the Vikings got an interception against Lamar Jackson. Anthony Barr swatted a ball at the line of scrimmage and caught it and got a huge momentum swing interception at our own 40. So great field position. It was overtime. We just needed a field goal to win it. We had it. And I don't know if this was Zimmer keeping Kubiak on a leash or Kubiak just making a bad play call, but we ran a design swing pass to Dalvin Cook and then the most basic-looking, predictable inside zone that you will ever see to Dalvin Cook on back-to-back plays and got a net gain of 1 yard. So that put it to 3rd and 9. And then we ran a pass play with 3 long developing crosser routes on a 3rd and 9 when they were obviously sending heat off the edge. That led to Kurt just having to throw the ball in front of Justin Jefferson. And it infuriated me watching it because it was like you just got all this momentum and it literally looked like you purposely were just giving away momentum. It didn't even look like he wanted to win. It was...
And I said this to you earlier. It looked like he was coaching not to lose, not coaching to win the game.
Yeah.
It looked like he was coaching for the field goal.
Exactly.
Like he was just wanting to get 10, 20 yards and kick the field goal, go home. It would be okay, but after last week's debacle,
so yeah,
you had to be more
aggressive. I can't remember if it was
there.
a player or a coach, but someone literally said that. I can't remember who said it in a press conference. But, and also, another big factor is right there. If we don't have the greatest offense, like if we don't have a good passing game and we really rely on our run game, like this isn't a bad thing against the Browns, but just as a Browns, for example, I totally understand going for the field goal right there because you know you're not going to hit a big play. But when you have Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Tyler Conklin showing up a little bit more each week, and then you still have that risk of Dalvin Cook, how do you not just play to get downfield?
I don't like the swing pass. That seemed like it was a check down, a safety valve call, and I don't get why.
Very much designed swing pass.
Yeah, but it almost seemed like that was the first read.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You could tell the first read was the swing pass to Dalvin, I just don't get.
That play call right there, I'd be like, no, let's use that for when we're closer, not when we get past the 50. If you're playing for the field goal, that's the perfect play right before the field goal or a couple plays before.
My last kind of statement on this is I don't know if this is truly Clint Kubiak and Zimmer has no effect on what is being called, then Clint Kubiak is not ready to be an offensive coordinator. He needs to get fired or demoted, however you want to look at it, but he's just clearly not ready. But if it's what I think it is, and Zimmer has a leash on Kubiak and is saying, you can't run this, and every time Kubiak puts a play in, Zimmer says, nah, let's run this, then Zimmer needs to either just stop doing that or it's really, truly just time for him to go because it's just annoying at this point. It's annoying watching us win every week, but then somehow finding a way to lose, and it's more often than not falls on the play calling or coaching.
I think it's more, that he's overruling them because obviously he worked with Gary Kubiak last year, and so I think it's more like well, I was friends with your dad and you're cool, but I'm gonna, I'm the adult here. You know what I mean? He thinks he's still older than him, and it's we're gonna go with what I think.
Well then,
and right.
It's time to stop.
He needs to step aside and just trust
trust
in Kubiak's calls. And again, I don't know how this is really unfolding, but I think it's more that Zimmer's making the final call on what play to run, even though Kubiak's supposed to be calling the plays. And I think he just needs to hand it all the way over to Kubiak and see how it goes.
Agreed. It might crash and burn, but that's
at
the
least
risk you take.
Trying something different.
Next up, we have the Packers, who went to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs, and the Chiefs ended up pulling out a surprisingly close game for what it probably should have been. Chiefs' offense didn't look great, but then, of course, the Packers' offense with Jordan Love in his first start didn't look overly great either. But, Callan, I'll let you talk about this.
Well, Jordan Love looked like the guy having his first ever career start on short notice suddenly. And he looked okay. For something in that situation, he looked okay. He didn't have a great game. He wasn't great, but I don't think he was horrible. I think that there's obviously things to work on, and there was also some things I really liked. In the fourth quarter, he really clutched up after kind of having a shaky, little bit of a I don't know if it took some while to get the nerves shooken off, but once the fourth quarter hit, it's like the switch flipped for him. And he started throwing passes downfield. He was hitting them, throwing good balls. I mean, earlier in the game, everything coming out of his hand looked like a wobbly spiral. So I liked that. The best thing I liked about it was his confidence. He never looked like he ever wavered. Like he never looked like the game was too big for him. I really liked that. The outcome, I didn't have any idea how this game was going to go. I went from thinking that the Packers were just going to blow them out because the Chiefs are a bad team to the Chiefs blowing us out because, oh my God, we got lost Rodgers. We got all this controversy around us now. To it being, wow, our defense is actually pretty good. Held Mahomes to career lows in pass yards and pass yards per attempt. And then Love had more yards, a better completion percentage, and a higher quarterback rating than Mahomes. So when somebody says
Pretty
that
good.
Jordan Love is reminiscent of Mahomes, yeah, he's better than Mahomes.
I don't know. Well,
But at the end of the day, I want my Aaron Rodgers back. Okay? That's the guy that's going to lead us to a Super Bowl this year. And that's my quarterback. Thank you, Jordan Love, for helping out when it was needed. Filling in. Appreciate you beating there. But it's time to let the dude do his thing.
I'd agree with pretty much everything. We'll see if Jordan Love's play earned his parents, his mom, some better seats because the Chiefs decided to give it a nosebleed.
Man, that's why the Chiefs are a bad team. You do this shit, and that's karma right there. So, in honor of Love's first start being at Arrowhead, the Chiefs gifted Jordan Love's mom and girlfriend seats to the game. Well, it just happened to be that these seats were in the last row at the top of the stadium in the nosebleeds. Pretty sure they got better seats sitting at home. They had to use the blimp cam just to show them on TV. So they're lucky they didn't lose that game and have Jordan Love kick their ass just for that. I will say I love the way our defense has played the last 2 weeks. Between the Arizona game and Rasul, who didn't really show up much this game, but he did okay. Kevin King has played great these last 2 weeks. He is like the 6th highest rated cornerback the last 2 weeks. I know. And it's like, what? This is the guy who couldn't hit a jump ball against Scotty Miller. Like, what?
Yeah,
he just learned how to play corner, and it was a good time to learn.
He finally figured it out.
Yep.
Next up, we have the Cardinals at the 49ers, and I didn't catch much of this game, but from what I've gathered, Colt McCoy just absolutely dominated the Niners defense. Rather not Colt McCoy, but James Conner.
And Colt McCoy.
49ers
Colt McCoy had
defense.
250 passing yards.
Did he?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Colt McCoy might be one of the most perfect backup quarterbacks because he's smart, he's experienced, and he does everything okay. He does everything pretty good. Nothing great, nothing outstanding, but just a football understanding and good awareness. You know, it's exactly what you want in a backup. Just somebody who understands the game and is not going to go out there and lose the game. You want your backup quarterback to be a good game manager.
Exactly.
And that's Colt McCoy.
Yeah, and Jimmy G seemed to have lost that killer instinct he
apparently he just wants to beat the Bears. I don't know what he's got against the Bears. I don't know. He came from Eastern Illinois, so I don't know if that had anything to do with it. Maybe he wanted to play for the Bears.
I thought the Niners had a pretty good chance in this one because the last time they faced in Arizona barely snuck out a win by 7.
And this was without Kyler Murray and without DeAndre Hopkins. So they actually had to have Christian Kirk throw a touchdown pass.
Did they? That's funny. I didn't know
they
that.
did a wide receiver reverse pass, and Kirk threw one.
The Niners just absolutely fell apart.
Yeah, James Conner got almost 100 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns.
Crazy game.
So,
next up, we got the Titans, who went to the Rams in another crazy game, and also, again, I know I keep saying this, but pretty well overall dominated the Rams.
Yeah.
The defense just totally stepped up. Stafford had 2 interceptions, one being a pick 6. I want to say the Titans had 5 or 6 total sacks. I saw a couple of them. I believe it's Jeffrey
Jeffrey
Simmons by
Simmons.
himself had 3 sacks.
Mm-hmm.
Man, their defense just stepped up. The Titans' offense didn't do much special. Adrian Peterson got a touchdown, so that was cool to see. Tannehill ran in a touchdown. I saw that one. But overall, the Titans just looked better in pretty much every aspect.
Mm-hmm. So I found the weakness. Watching that game, I saw the weakness in the Rams. They do not have a very strong offensive line. Because that defensive line of the Titans was able to get pressure on Stafford almost all night. And that's huge. When you can get your front four to get pressure, you don't need to send extra men. Oh, man. I mean, that's just... right away, I could see that they were starting to really turn over and win that game. Stafford was starting to get sacked in the end zone, and he got flustered and threw a spinning pass that got intercepted.
Shades
you
of
just
Vince.
it was. You either got to just take that sack. It was in the end zone, so I understand trying to get rid of it, or throw it away. I guess, but even then, if you can't get a good throw away, you'll get intentional grounding. So it's hard to say, but it looked really bad. When you make a throw like that, it just looks bad.
The Titans came to play and got the
And
upset.
Adrian Peterson.
Adrian
Adrian
Peterson getting
all
the
day,
touchdown.
still scoring rushing touchdowns.
I was so happy.
I
when
don't care.
saw that.
At 60 years old, if you're on the 1 yard line, I might put that guy in my backfield.
I didn't get to see it, but it warmed my heart when I heard that he got it.
Oh, man. He only had like 30 yards rushing.
Yeah.
But, hey, all you need is just get within the 5, and he's almost automatic.
Oh, it's so cool to see. So, finally, before we get to our quick kicks, we got the Monday night game of the Bears-Steelers, and I'm going to be giving away my monthly head slap to the Bears-Steelers.
That was weekly.
Did I say monthly?
Yeah.
Weekly head
Weekly
slap.
head slap.
To the Bears-Steelers officiating crew, because it was so awful to watch. They had like 12 penalties against the Bears, and don't get me wrong, most of them were actual penalties. The Bears played very, however you want to call it, not dirty, but you kind of get what I'm saying, where they did get a lot of penalties called against them. But they had multiple penalties against them that were just so dumb and so influential to the outcome of the game. The Bears ended up only losing by 2 in this game with the game-winning field goal from Chris Boswell, but they had a touchdown to get brought back on a total bullcrap chop block call that forced them to take a field goal instead of a touchdown, so that's a 4-point swing. And then the refs handed a field goal to the Pittsburgh Steelers by calling another total bullcrap taunting call on the Bears defense, and that was a 3-point swing because that went from the Steelers punting to getting a field goal. So when you have 2 huge awful call penalties making a 7-point swing in a 2-point game, you just can't have that. You hate to see that, and that's really the whole story of this entire game.
It unfortunately is. It really overshadowed it. Again, the officiating and the referees have overshadowed what turned out to be a great game.
An amazing game.
Really, the Bears probably should have won after I gave up on it. Not gonna lie. It was halfway through the third quarter. It was 20-6 Pittsburgh. And I was like, this game's over. I went to bed. I found out this morning the Bears almost won. So that was like, wow. But yeah, that chop block by James Daniel. So you can hit a chop block if you're in the tackle box. So he was right about on the line, but usually when it's that close, they don't call it. But the key thing here is he didn't even hit the chop block.
Not at
all. He missed his guy. So he went for the chop block, but the guy dodged him. So how can you call a penalty when you don't even actually hit your chop block? And then on the taunting penalty, it was a special teams regular. It was in on a whatever reason, injury replacement.
For Khalil Mack.
It
was
off the practice squad today.
Squad guy, yeah.
So, of course, he's super excited, gets a big sack on third down. He's jumping up, and he looked over and glared at the Steelers sideline, who cut him earlier this year.
I did not know that.
So, as far as I know, he didn't really say anything. He just...
I think what the ref thought was that he was talking crap to the punter, who was walking onto the field when they called it. But if you look at it from a different angle, the ref just saw his back, and it did look like it from the back angle. But if you look at it from the front, where you can see his eyes, he just clearly wasn't looking at the punter, saying anything to the punter.
So apparently the ref had an issue with Cassius Marsh. Because as Marsh was leaving the field, the ref sticks his big old ass
He
out
literally
and
takes a
hip
step
checks
back
him.
and sticks his butt out.
I've never
towards
seen
him.
a ref hip check someone. It looked like when you're kind of irritated at someone and you give that stiff shoulder, except he gave a stiff ass. And it's like, what are you? He's lucky that Cassius Marsh didn't turn around and knock him out, or see that he was sticking his butt out and just hip check him back real hard, send him flying. But Cassius Marsh even said, and he goes, if I did that, he goes, I would have been thrown out of the game.
Exactly.
He goes, so why can't that ref be thrown out for doing that shit? And I agree. I don't know what that was Bush League. I don't know what that was about.
Yeah.
I get judgment calls, the taunting thing, all that it was bad deal, bad call, but it's part of the game. I get that much. It's the rule that's in place. The thing I'm most upset about is that whole hip check thing. What was that? I mean, I don't know. That ref needs to explain himself on what happened there.
It was crazy to see. Justin Fields kind of came out of his shell and played well towards the end. The Bears defense really stepped up without Khalil Mack, but overall the refs kind of decided the game, and you hate to see it. So moving on to our quick kicks. First up, we got the Jets at the Colts. The Jets and Josh Johnson, after Mike White got hurt, ended up playing pretty well and almost having a very late game comeback. But Jonathan Taylor had a career day for the Colts, 185 rushing yards, and the Colts get the win.
And this was another one. This is a common theme here. I thought this game was also over when it was like, whatever it was, 40-15. And the Jets almost covered the spread.
It was close. They were playing well.
I don't have a name for Josh Johnson like I did Mike White. If Josh Johnson had come back and won that game, I bet that he'd have a name then, and he would probably be the Jets starting quarterback.
There would be a name for him then, for sure.
I mean, who would have thought that Kyle Wilson would be third string now?
Next up, we got the Pats Panthers. Mac Jones showed off some of his wrestling moves against Brian Burns by giving him an ankle twist.
That ankle lock.
And Sam Darnold goes back to seeing ghosts because the Patriots defense was in his face all game, and even when they weren't in his face, he was still just chucking up ducks.
Yep. So. Sam Darnold, Bill Belichick is he is his ghost. He is his spirit that follows him. That's like paranormal activity. I mean, and even the Patriots, former players, all of them on Twitter on Sunday, all their Twitters just had pictures of ghosts. Casper, Scooby-Doo ghosts, just all of them were just, and I thought that was just hilarious.
That is hilarious. Keep an eye out for the new Paranormal Activity movie coming out, the Bill Belichick Chronicles.
It's going to
be a good one in theaters.
Starring Belichick and Sam Darnold.
Next up, we got the Texans at the Dolphins, and Tyrod Taylor came back for his first start in a couple of weeks and just did not look good.
He might as well just stay home.
And the Dolphins just didn't look like anything, to be honest. They didn't look good. They didn't look bad, but they did enough to get a win. So
before the show, you were asking me, you're like, "What? You got anything on the Dolphins-Houston game?" And I was like, "The Dolphins won."
That's
about it.
That is about it, to say the least. And then finally, we got the Chargers-Eagles, and this isn't a quick kick necessarily because it's a bad matchup. It's actually a great game.
Really good game.
But Cal and I just didn't get to watch any of it. So
you were traveling, and that was the same time with the Packers game, so I didn't see a whole lot of it. It did seem like both of the A teams showed up, because we noticed during last week's episode we said that both B teams could show up, and it would be a 6-3 game. And both A teams showed up, and it was a 27-24 shootout dogfight. It was actually really exciting. I'd like to go back and watch it a little bit.
As I say, I might have to go back and watch the highlights on that one.
Justin Herbert had 2 rushing touchdowns, including one at the end to give him not the lead, but to go ahead and then
to get the go ahead.
To go ahead, and then Philly tied it, and then they kicked the go ahead field goal. But yeah, that's for me. So it was a lot of action that happened.
I might have to watch some highlights on that one. Well, that was our NFL Week 9 recap. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, don't forget
to eat the W.